मन्दोऽगुरुपदगञ्ज कृपा सिन्धुनररूपरि महामोहतं पुञ्जजा सुवचन रविकरनिकर मन्दो सीतारामजिपद सकल सुमंगल मूल तासु नाम वरनौ कछुक जो मो परे अनुकूल श्री राम नाम को रसिक जे तिन पद रजमम शीश शिव गणपति हनुमान शुक सनकादिक अहीश विधि नारद प्रहलाद ध्रुव व्यास गडज कविराय लोमश गरुड़ भुषुंड भृगु याज्ञवल्क्य भरद्वाज श्रीवाणी गिरिजादित्य जीव चराचर छोड़ राम नाम जिमि सरस प्रिय तास चरण सिर मोर श्री राम नाम को कही सकै जानि सकै को गा यथा सिंधु खग चोच भरी त्रिविध थाह नहीं पाओ सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। Namaskar everyone. Welcome to session 3 of Panchanga Praveshika. In the first two sessions, we have largely covered some brief background about Panchanga as a system, and we have covered the concept of Tithi in detail yesterday. Today we'll be further building on the concept of Tithi. But before that, a slight revision of the core concepts so that none of us are left behind in this journey, and a little bit of revision every once in a while helps. So I'll start with some of the fundamental concepts that we have covered more at a surface level for us to be able to understand what is going on when it comes to Panchanga. Like I discussed, the 5 limbs, the 5 anga of time is called as Panchangam. Pancha is 5, anga is parts, the 5 key elements, each which connect astronomy with ritual life. One is the Tithi, which is the lunar day. So Tithi is effectively a lunar day, nakshatra, which can be called as the stellar lunar mansions. These are very far away stars which appear from the earth, and there is very small proper motion through the years. Many thousands of years pass, and there is hardly any proper motion that you see in the nakshatra. Third is yoga. Yoga is the luni-solar sum. We add the longitudes of sun and moon, and we see when the joint longitude moves by 13 degree 20 minutes. That is one yoga. Karan is half of Tithi. And next is Vara. Vara we already know. I have just added Paksha here. Paksha is fortnight. So Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. This is what forms the structure of the Vedic day, the Hindu calendar. Tithi we can simply understand as pulse of the moon. We have discussed this. So it is the time taken for the elongation or the angular distance between the moon and the sun to increase by 12 degrees. We discussed this in detail yesterday. Since one lunar revolution around the earth is 360 degrees. Now we know that the path of earth around the sun is essentially what appears as the path of sun around the earth when looked at from the geocentric perspective. So since that circle covers a span of 360 degree and each lunar elongation is 12 degree, therefore there are 30 tithis in a lunar month. We also discussed that Amavasya, if you think about it, it actually ends when sun and moon are exactly together. Look from at the geocentric perspective. So it ends there. That is not the beginning of the Amavasya. So Amavasya is minus 12 degree to 0 degree. Similarly, Purnima, it ends when the difference between the sun and the moon is actually 180 degree. So keep this thing in mind. And every tithi we can understand as the kalas of Chandra. 16 कला बोलते हैं ना चंद्र, 15 तिथियों की कला एंड वन पूर्णिमा। अमावस्या में तो कला होती नहीं, चंद्र रहते नहीं। So you can consider each tithi as a subtle phase of the moon's visible form, the daily phase of the lunar energy, which governs many things: tides, emotions, the menstrual cycle in women, as well as the ritual timings. That is done by the tithi. The first tithi after Amavasya is the Pratipada, when the moon moves eastward from the sun, and when the separation reaches 12 degree, the first tithi ends and Dvitiya starts. So this same principle repeats for all 30 tithis. We discussed it yesterday, just for a small revision here. Now the tithis are not all uniform. A uniform tithi will be 60 ghatika, 60 ghatika. So like we discussed yesterday, one ghati is 24 minutes. So 60 ghatika is 24 hours. So which is normally considered as the mean length of the day. But the mean length of the day is not always 24 hours. The length changes throughout the year. And in India, we consider the day from sunrise to sunrise. And Tithi is considered in angles. The lunar elongation of 12 degree, that is the Tithi. So, in terms of the mean length of the Tithi, it is 59 Ghatika, 3 Pala, 40.23 Vipala. That is essentially, it translates into 23 hours, 37 minutes, 28.1 seconds. That is the mean lunar day. Chandra Tithi. The greatest, when it comes to the greatest length, the Tithi can expand up to 26 hours, 6 minutes and 24 minutes, which is 65 Ghatika, 16 Pal and 0 Vipal. And the least, the Tithi will at least be 21 hours, 34 minutes, 24 seconds, 53 Ghatika, 56 Pal. And that is why we have the festival Tithis somewhat shift across civil days. Because the Tithi can start on an earlier day and move on the next day. This is a concept of Vriddhi Tithi and Chaya Tithi that we will spend a lot of time explaining today. What is a Vriddhi Tithi and what is a Chaya Tithi? In addition, we defined Purnima when it is 180 degree away. That is when the Purnima ends. Okay, and that completes the Shukla Paksha, the bright half of the moon. So Amavasya and Purnima, if you think about it, it is like two poles of the lunar rhythm: darkness, light, seed, blossom, stillness, expansion. So the duality of life that exists in uh, our day-to-day experience, that symbolism is also found in terms of the kalas of Chandra, which we call as Tithi. Nakshatra we have already discussed yesterday, essentially 27 equal parts of the zodiac. And as the Chandra travels these sectors, it is said to visit one nakshatra per day. Each nakshatra has a presiding deity and a symbolic meaning. As we go through the course, we'll discuss each nakshatra along with their stories in detail. And these nakshatras, they actually serve as the foundation for naming children, ritual selection, muhurta. They are the most ancient form of measurement, astronomical measurement. You will find this mention in the as early as the Rigvedas. You find the mention of nakshatras and how the nakshatras shape destinies in the Itihasas, that is Ramayana and the Mahabharata, as well as the Puranas. So these are the very basis of Indian system of astrology and astronomy, to the extent that even the beginning of the zodiacal cycle is actually fixed with reference to the nakshatra and not with reference to the seasons, like is done in Western astrology. Next is the yoga. What is the yoga? The yoga is essentially the period during which The sum of the longitudes of sun and moon increases by 13 degree 20 minutes. Okay. So here we add sun and moon, the longitude, and when this sum moves forward by 13 degree 20 minutes, that is what is called as yoga. So naturally the span of each yoga will be 13 degree 20 minutes, which is same as the span of the nakshatra. But these are two very different concepts. Nakshatra are fixed mansions in the sky, the lunar mansions in the sky, thousands or millions of years. And yoga is a mathematical construct wherein we calculate the combined longitude of the sun and the moon, and we see when they move forward by 13 degree 20 minute. So each yoga is associated with a specific quality or influence on the day. Okay. While nakshatras, they depend on moon's position, yogas is the sum. So this is more about the dynamic harmony. Yogas are also very important for finding out the quality of time. In Ramcharitmanas, when the birth of Sri Ramchandra is talked about, Goswamiji writes, Yog Lagan Grahavar Tithi Sakal Bhay Anukul. The first word that he uses for nakshatra or panchangam here is yoga. So yoga are very important. And finally, Karan is half of the tithi. One tithi is 12 degree, Karan is 6 degree difference. These Karans, they subdivide tithis to fine tune daily observances and auspicious timings. This is a subtler division of the tithi. Finally, Paksha. We have talked about Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. Shukla Paksha is the bright fortnight where the moon is waxing, and Krishna Paksha is the dark fortnight when the moon is waning. Lunar month is the month that consists of Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. When you start from Shukla Paksha and end in Krishna Paksha, that when you start after Amavasya ends, that is called Amavasyanta calendar, which is popular mostly in southern India. Similarly, when you start with Krishna Paksha, that is once Purnima ends and go on to the Shukla Paksha, that is called the Purnimanta calendar, which is more popular in northern India. Amanta and Purnimant, we talked. 5 limbs we have talked. So this was a small brief that I wanted to give in terms of what we have already discussed. Now today, the core topic for today is the mathematical explanation of Tithi duration variations and what is the astronomical basis thereof for Chaya and Adhika Tithi. Okay, so let us see that. What is a Tithi? A Tithi is normally described as a lunar elongation as the difference between moon and sun increases by 12. So with 12 degree, it is Tithi 1, Tithi 2 is 12 degree, Tithi 3 at 36 degree. A full lunation spans around 360 degree. Hence, number of Tithis in a lunar cycle is 30. Starting from Pratipada and ending in Amavasya or Purnima, depending on the system that you follow. And the mean Tithi duration is around 23 hours and 40 something minutes. But that is the mean duration, that is not applicable everywhere. Now let us talk about some astronomical background. Some astronomical background to actually understand what we are dealing with here. A lunar month is the time that the moon takes to return to the same elongation from the sun. Okay. So if I start from Pratipada, I go back to Pratipada, that is approximately 29.5306 days. And a lunar year is 12 such years, which accounts to around 354 days. If you take care of the decimal points, it comes to 354 days. Now, if you see, this is about 11 days shorter than the Solar year is 365 days and a few hours. The solar year, tropical, is the period of Earth's revolution with respect to the vernal equinox, approximately 365.2422 days. And then there is a sidereal year also, wherein we calculate the period of Earth's evolution with respect to the nakshatras, which is slightly greater than the solar year. Now, because the lunar year is shorter, lunar reckoning gradually drifts away from solar seasons. And that is why every few years we have a Adhika Masa, that is added, intercalary month added to restore this alignment. Now, to understand the difference between tithis, we have to understand the concept of apogee and perigee. So at perigee, the moon is the closest to the earth, and when it is the closest to the earth, it moves the fastest. Then the speed of the moon with respect to the earth is the fastest. It moves about 1 kilometer per second faster than others. And at apogee, the moon is the farthest and therefore moves the slowest. So essentially, it is not a perfect circle, right? It is an ellipse. And since it is an ellipse, then from the center, one side is bigger, one side is smaller. So the closest part is called perigee, the farthest part is called apogee. At the closest part, it is the fastest. At the farthest part, it is the slowest. Also, the Earth's orbit around the Sun is also elliptical. Now, since we are talking about Earth's orbit around the Sun, therefore this G becomes helium. At perihelion, the Earth is closest to the Sun and it moves the fastest. At aphelion, which is around early July, it is the farthest from the Sun and moves the slowest. So there are two variations of movement that we see. One is the variation of speed of moon around the earth. The second is the variation of speed of earth around the sun, which will appear as variation in the speed of sun. Are you getting me? The variation in the speed of earth around the moon, around the sun, when seen from earth, will feel like the speed of sun is different. So at perihelion, sun will appear to move the fastest, and at aphelion, around July, the sun will appear to move the slowest. Clear this part? About aphelion, perihelion, about perigee and apogee. So why this goes? Because according to Kepler's second law of motion, the line joining a planet to the sun sweeps equal areas in equal times. So hence the orbital speed will increase near perihelion and aphelion and decrease near aphelion, because the speed will have to be kept so that the area swept is the same. So if the speed is slower, then the distance is higher, therefore area will still be the same. But if the speed is faster, it is nearer, more area needs to be covered, therefore it is faster. So it is a direct consequence of Kepler's second law that we see these variations in the speed of sun and moon as seen from the earth. Now, relative motion and orbit shares. The moon orbits the earth, but both bodies revolve around a common center of mass. Try to understand, there is a common center of mass around which both earth and moon revolve. So we call it the three body problem in mathematical physics. And this center is called the barycenter. It lies about 4,700 kilometers from the Earth's center. Does the moon's motion actually is a direct function of this shared revolution? And partly it also reflects its own orbital motion. So what also happens is the Earth-Moon system orbits the Sun at around 1 astronomical unit. Astronomical unit is a unit that we use for measurement in astronomy. The combined results gives the observed synodic month, whose length actually depends on the relative speed of moon around earth and earth around the sun. Here we are using a mathematical symptom omega. The omega relative is actually omega of moon minus omega of sun. This is Angular speed. For angular speed, the symbol that we use is omega. So the relative angular speed of moon and sun with respect to the barycenter is omega relative equal to omega moon minus omega sun. So when omega relative is greater, Tithi shorten, which means that when the relative motion of moon is faster than the relative motion of sun as seen from earth, then the Tithis shorten around 20 hours. 21 hours is what we found was the limit of the Tithi. This leads to Chaya Tithi. And when omega relative is smaller, which means that the angular speed of sun relatively is faster than the angular speed of moon, then the Tithis extend beyond 24 hours, causing Adhika Tithi. So it is purely an astronomical phenomenon which is driven by three motions: the motion of moon around the earth, the motion of earth around the sun, and the motion of the earth moon as a system around the sun with the barycenter as the reference point. Once we consider all these three, then we understand the exact reason why a tithi is Adhika Tithi and why a tithi is Chaya Tithi. Now, this ensures that there has to be a civil adjustment. So, 12 lunar months, there are approximately 354 solar days that we have discussed. Yet, there are only 260 tithis that occur within this time, still fewer than the notional 266 tithis. I think there is a slight problem in mathematics. I just ignore it for the time being. I'll correct it the next time. There was a typing error. Essentially, what I'm talking about is that a Chaya Tithi is one. How do you now define the Chaya Tithi? We understood that Tithis can be smaller, Tithis can be larger, leading to Chaya Tithi and leading to Adhika Tithi. How do we define a Chaya Tithi? A Chaya Tithi is one which never sees the sunrise. Okay? And Adhika Tithi is one that governs two sunrises. Plus, so that means that there will be Tithi when there are no Tithi endings. And there will be Tithi when two Tithis can end together. No Tithi ending, a Tithi starts before sunrise, moves to another sunrise. So that is an Adhika Tithi. What is a two Tithi ending? Say a Tithi ends at 7:30. The sunrise is at 6:30. And the other Tithi, the Chaya Tithi, it ends 21 hours after 7:30. That is at 28:30, which is 4:30 in the morning, the second Tithi ends. So before the next sunrise. So between one sunrise, there are two Tithis that have ended. So days on which there are no Tithi ends or two Tithis end together, they are regarded as inauspicious. Typically, again ignore this part for now. Next is the Chaya Tithi. So we said a Chaya Tithi is when a Tithi begins and ends between two sunrises. And when it occurs typically when either the moon is near perigee or the sun is near the aphelion, resulting in a relative motion of relative angular velocity of moon and sun to about 14.5 degrees per day geocentrically. That is when Tithis can be as short as 19 to 20 hours, typically around 21 hours. So let us see it diagrammatically. Day 1 sunrise, say Dvitiya was in operation. And after some time after sunrise, Tritiya starts, but Tritiya ends before the next sunrise and Chaturthi starts. So what will you say? We'll say Tritiya is a Chaya Tithi. And we will say that this Tithi was Dvitiya, Biddha, Tritiya. So Dvitiya and Tritiya was both there in this Tithi, and Tritiya did not see a sunrise. Therefore, it is skipped. It begins and ends between two sunrises. Okay. So this is your Chaya Tithi. What is an Adhika Tithi? An Adhika Tithi is a Tithi that spans two consecutive sunrises. So the duration is greater than 24 hours. This occurs when the moon is the slowest. It is near the apogee and sun is the fastest. when it is near the perihelion. That is when the duration of the tithi is greater than 24 hours. Example, suppose Panchami was there on sunrise, already there on sunrise. Panchami might have started some minutes before sunrise or some hours before sunrise. Next sunrise also have Panchami. So what do we say? That the same tithi is governing two sunrises and is therefore repeated. Therefore, this is called an Adhika tithi or Vriddhi tithi. Now let us get a mathematical summary. So I asked you to ignore this. There's a mistake here. Days on which no tithi, 1 to 2 chaya and several adhikas. Sorry for this. This was a skip. This is the actual uh, number. About 13 chaya tithis are likely to occur in a lunar year of 12 lunar months, and about 7 adhika tithis appear in a lunar year. This occurrence follows the variation of lunar and solar apparent speeds. So mathematical summary is the fastest. Moon is perigee, Sun is aphelion. Relative velocity is about 14. Relative angular velocity is 14.5 degree per day. Chaya is possible between 19.9 hours and 21 hours is the tithi duration. The average is when both are at mean points, neither at perihelion or aphelion, and the relative the speed is around 12.7 degrees per day. The duration is around 23.6 hours. Slowest is when moon is at apogee and sun is at perihelion. Approximately, the relative angular velocity comes to 10.8 degree per day, which is around 26.7 hours, and that is when an Adhika Tithi becomes possible. So, over typical years, about 13 Chaya Tithis may occur in a lunar year of 12 months, and about 7 Adhika Tithis appear in a lunar year. So, their occurrence follows the lunar and solar variation. So, what we learned that this Tithi calculation was purely a mathematical construct, right? There is absolutely no randomness when it comes to Chaya Tithi and Vriddhi Tithi. There are a lot of questions around the concept of Chaya and Vriddhi, and therefore I thought that I'll explain it. So, this is all I wanted to uh, discuss today. If there are any questions, I'll take it. Otherwise, the next calculations of Yoga Karan and further details we'll be discussing in the next class. So if there are any questions, those questions can be asked. If you guys have any question, fine. I don't
Sir,
see any question in comments. Otherwise, we'll close the session.
I have a
Yes.
question, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
In case, sorry, my question is, in case someone is born uh, during Chhay Tithi,
Hmm.
during the time when there is Chhay Tithi, next time, as per Hindu calendar, when would he celebrate his birthday?
So, as per Hindu calendar, the birthday should be celebrated on the Nakshatra Tithi. When there is a Nakshatra return, the solar return and the Nakshatra return. When you get in the same solar month, moon in the same nakshatra degree as yours. For devatas and for avatars, we use tithi to celebrate the birthday. For humans, we use the nakshatras to celebrate the birthday. So in the next session, probably I can give an example from Jagannath Pura on how to calculate it. So the tithi, the birth time that we calculate is actually the nakshatra. I think on my YouTube channel there is a video on when to celebrate your Vedic birthday. It should be as per the nakshatra return in the same solar month.
So that's a general rule, is what we're saying, that not to
Yeah.
go by the Tithi when you were born,
Not to go by
to
the
go by
tithi, we
the
have to go by
position
nakshatra.
of moon in the nakshatra which was there when you were born.
Exactly. So when there is a solar return, that is sun comes to nearby the same degree and you are at the nakshatra. The Chandra is at the same nakshatra. So around the solar nakshatra, the solar return, when I say solar return, when sun comes to the same degree
Same
at the
degree.
time when you are born, around that time, when is moon passing the your birth nakshatra at the same degree as your born? That is that your birth time that has to be calculated. There is one
which
video.
may
I'll put the link on this video on
sure,
YouTube where I have explained this entire method,
which may or may not fall on the same tithi.
which may or may not follow the same tithi. Tithi, like I said, is for avatars. For humans, it is nakshatra.
Nakshatra.
We have to look at the nakshatra return rather than the tithi
And again, just to dig deeper into it, within the nakshatra, any specific time to match the birth time?
return. Here we'll get the exact time. We'll get the exact time when moon is at the same degree of nakshatra. So then we'll find on this year when is my exact birthday and birth time as per the Hindu calendar. We can get it. I'll link that video in the first comment on this video. So
Sure,
that will help.
sure.
Tejas, you wanted to ask something?
Yes, sir. I have a question regarding upvas that people follow based on tithi, like Chaturthi, Ekadashi. So, suppose if there is Kshaya of Chaturthi or Ekadashi, then what should someone do?
There are many rules. So when we come to Brata Parva Vivek, we'll discuss about it. For Ekadaji, for example, some traditions even accept Arunodaya Kal. Some traditions insist on Suryodaya Kal. And there are clear rules about Ekadashi. That is, Dashami Vidya Ekadashi should not be taken. However, the Ekadashi Vidya Dwadashi can be taken. Okay? And different Vaishnava Parampara, they have different rules. Some people say the rules for Smartha are different. So those rules are different for Smarthas. For Vaishnavas, there are different rules. So, for example, you will find that the Shuddha Vaishnavas will have a different rule, the Ramanandis will have a different rule. We'll try to explain the basics that the saints have talked about when we get to Prataparva Vivek. But the key concept is very clearly outlined when we have to do that, which Vidya Tithi should be avoided. For example, in the recent Ekadashi, a lot of people unfortunately get Ekadashi on Dashami Vidya Ekadashi. Now, Dashami Vidya Ekadashi has to be avoided at all costs. Ekadashi can, Dwadashi Vidya Ekadashi. Ekadashi Vidya Dwadashi is still better to do Ekadashi, but Dashami Vidya Ekadashi has to be completely avoided. So, those rules are given when we come to Vrata Parva Viveka, that part of our sessions. Then we'll discuss that as
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right.
well. Okay, then we'll close the session for today. See
Okay,
you
sir.
again next
Thank you.
Saturday.
Thank you.
Namaskar.